Welcome back to NDTV Profit. We are now joined by Mr. Girish Wagh, Executive Director at Tata Motors. Thank you so much for joining us today, sir. Just the first question to start off with on the Ace EV itself. We've seen the transition from electric vehicles going into LNG and eventually the CNG picking up as well. How are you seeing the commercial vehicle transition space going on? We've seen eventually for LCV, the electric vehicle segment has picked up substantially, but eventually the outlook is a little different. If you could just start off us with both these particular segments on different powertrains, the current strategy, and how do you see this market?
Yes, so I think as you rightly put, the transition towards zero emission vehicles in commercial vehicles will happen through natural gas as a fuel, and we are seeing this trend across the range, right? So therefore, I think as a company we invested in alternate fuels quite a few years back, and now across the range we have either CNG or LNG or biofuel offerings, and I think these offerings have been doing pretty well. One has also seen a growth in the retail infrastructure for natural gas, and that has also helped in terms of increasing the penetration. I think a year back there was a lot of uncertainty on the prices of natural gas with respect to diesel, but I think with the Kirit Parikh committee recommendation, this gap between CNG and diesel has been clarified, and one can now see demand coming back to CNG as the retail infrastructure also grows. But we know very well that the destination is finally zero emission, and here also we have been investing in multiple technologies, whether it is battery electric vehicles or fuel cell electric or even hydrogen internal combustion engines. I think within the commercial vehicles, on the lower side, that is lighter loads, lower distance and more predictable duty cycle, intra-city kind of operation will see battery electric, whether it is the smaller commercial vehicles, light, intermediate, even heavy if they are used for intra-city operations, and buses of course we have seen are battery electric. We've invested in this across the range, and as you rightly said, we have the Ace EV, more than 5,000 Ace EVs are now running on the roads. We have more than 2,700 electric buses running on the roads. Both the segments, I think we are a leader by far. And in the last quarter, we also piloted our electric heavy commercial vehicles for a closed predicted duty cycle kind of an operation. But in addition to this, we have also been working on hydrogen as a fuel in two technologies. One is fuel cell electric, and second is of course internal combustion engine for heavy duty long distance kind of applications. So we are running around 15 fuel cell electric buses in Delhi with the help of IOCL, and H2ICE, that is hydrogen internal combustion engine, we've already invested in our R&D facility as also a manufacturing facility for bigger engines, and I think we are getting geared up for introduction of these technologies across. I must say that the government has been very, very supportive in this endeavor. We have very good incentives on both the demand side, that is the FAME, GST, as also some states have specific incentives. And now with PLI, the government has also come up with the supply side incentives. So I think we have both demand and supply side incentives. We hope that this continues till the penetration of zero emission vehicles reaches a threshold, and then it picks up on its own.
Now, I just had one other question on the volume as well as the value equation currently. How is it evolving both in LCV as well as the MHCV cycle and the space? Are you seeing the higher tonnage market share also going up? And because we've seen a lot of norms changes after the last 2018-19 post that we've seen the axle norms come in. How are you seeing this particular segment on both these fronts?
You're right. So I think we look at the entire goods carrying segment into three sub-segments. The heavy commercial vehicles, which is 28 ton and above. Then the intermediate light medium commercial vehicles, which is 4 tons to around 19 tons. And the small commercial vehicles, which is below 4 tons. I think we are seeing across the range, within the sub-segment, there has been a migration towards heavier tonnage. because it does make sense on total cost of operations basis. So in heavy commercial vehicles, for example, there has been a significant shift happening to the 5-axle vehicle of 48 tons or the 55-ton tractors. Within ILMCV, one has seen migration happening towards 19 tons and also 12 ton is a node. And in the smaller commercial vehicles also one has seen migration happening towards the heavier vehicles. Obviously, I think there are some applications which are volume based, but that size in the larger play is smaller, and therefore one has seen a significant movement happening towards heavier tonnage. And therefore, to reinforce what you started with, I think in value terms, I think the industry has certainly grown more as compared to the previous peak on volume terms. And I think going ahead, one should see this progression happening towards higher tonnage vehicles.
Just a question on electric bus, because you mentioned that 2,700 electric buses are already on road. In this particular space, we have seen limited presence from a couple of big players and a few smaller ones as well. Now, this is of course because of the current structure of maintaining the buses as well for the sellers. How are you seeing this particular space? Because we've seen very limited presence from a lot of players in this. And do you see there has been any kind of conversations with the government on reducing this particular financial strain? What is the current structure that Tata Motors follows?
Yes, so I think, first of all, the government has been very proactive and clear about changing the public transportation in cities to electric. So that leads to a good amount of decarbonization. And that's where they came up with this own operate maintain model. As a part of that, there was the first tender of CESL, in which we participated. We won large quantity of that, and almost all the buses we've already deployed. This year we will complete the deployment. In the process, we have established 27 depots across the country, more than 2,700 buses running. We've covered more than 15 crore kilometers cumulative, and we continue to deliver more than 95% uptime. And as a part of that, I think we have ensured that this government's initiative towards decarbonization of public transportation in cities starts becoming successful. In this whole journey, we've also learned a lot in terms of operational requirements, which we've built into our model. But at the same time, on the financial model, I think we have been looking at two specific things from the government. One is a payment security mechanism so that the whole model becomes bankable, and the government has already accepted it. We are just waiting the final cabinet approval so that it gets into the next tender. And second thing we've been looking at is going for an asset-light model where the buses are not necessarily on our balance sheet. So even this has been accepted as a requirement from the government. There has been a lot of positive response from the government. The government also has been appreciative of the efforts taken by Tata Motors to push this agenda of buses becoming electric. So I think there is a good appreciation of each other's point. And I see that these points, both payment security mechanism and asset-light model, should get into the next tender, and then we should be participating in the few tenders, because as you know, after winning the first tender, we have actually stayed away from few tenders after that.
My final question is, of course, on the demerger. This is a very big news for the commercial vehicle segment as well. We've seen that the cash rich and the cash flow that this segment generates has previously, of course, pivoted to PV as well. But right now, with the demerger, that will be a key benefit to the commercial vehicle segment. My question was that how do you see this particular over the next 2 to 3 years? Of course, the demerger will take 12 to 15 months from now. But what kind of segments that you weren't present in before would you be entering? Anything on capex and on exports as well? Because you will have a plethora of opportunities here post the demerger for the commercial vehicle segment. If you could just talk us through that.
Yeah. So see, in commercial vehicles, I spoke about the product businesses. So we have 4 groups: heavy commercial vehicles, intermediate, light, medium, and small commercial vehicles, and we also have buses and vans. Now, these 4 product businesses are linked to the total industry volume for a particular year, and total industry volume is generally linked to how the economy is growing, and this has generally been cyclical and volatile. In addition to that, therefore, we have increased focus on businesses which are not so much total industry volume linked, but more on the park size. So how many vehicles you have in the park, and therefore the business is linked to that, and therefore it can continue to grow. So there are 4 businesses in this. The first one is of course our downstream non-vehicle business, which consists of the spares, aggregates and the services that we offer to our customers. Second is we created this smart city mobility model by operating the buses. And third is we have created the whole digital business, right, wherein we have an e-commerce platform for selling not just the vehicles but also the spares in the in-use phase, but also creating a telematics-based platform which will help customers track and trace their vehicles and improve the utilization and actually the profitability of their vehicles. We also have the international business, which is not necessarily cyclical as the the domestic product is, and therefore these 4 businesses give us the flexibility and capability to reduce the volatility on the 4 product businesses. Now, the demerger therefore gives a lot of freedom to the commercial vehicle business to chase its own aspirations. And within the commercial vehicle business, there are 8 sub-businesses that I spoke about. Each of these 8 businesses are being run with a clear financial framework or a financial target for each of these. And more than target, I think each of them also have aspiration to grow. So in the product businesses, we have a clear philosophy of profitable growth now, right, which we have been driving for almost last 21 months. And the remaining 4 businesses, we will continue to grow at a rate which will be faster than that of the domestic businesses. Now, to make all this happen, we will have to invest a good amount of capital in the mega trends, which is autonomous, connected, electrification, software. We will also have to invest in the digital, right? And lastly, I would say the sustainability transition. So whether it is decarbonization or whether it is circularity and also preserving biodiversity. I think we will continue to invest around 2 to 4% of our revenue on all these mega trends from a futuristic perspective, and also on bringing in efficiencies in the current business. And this will ensure that each of these businesses are able to meet their aspirations and grow in a profitable manner.
Well, thank you, Mr. Wagh, for joining us today and answering all our questions. We look forward to our next chat, but thank you so much for joining us today.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.